Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Swift Social with myself, Charlie, and this month we are joined by General Manager Simon.
Hello.
And ex-captain, ex-player, ex-ball boy, top fan, Christopher Hegarty.
Mascot
As well. Mascot as well.
He's proud of the mascot.
I just remember seeing that picture going across Facebook that you standing on the pitch. Just in the oldest, I think it was in O'Neill Swift's top. You were standing. And then now you're here in your coaching gear.
Coaching gear, yeah.
We'll get on to that in a minute. What about the start of the season we're having, boys?
I tell you what, it's been absolutely immense. Looking at it internally and seeing the boys at training, seeing the way Rod has them, there's laughs, there's smiles, there's serious work. It's a really, really good mix. I'm not an expert in the coaching front, but you can tell that that's a really happy changing room and a happy bunch of boys, which comes from Rod, Dixie, all the coaches, all the backroom staff, and it's plain to see that the boys are enjoying playing matches. There's been a couple, and Rod has said himself, times where we could have played better, but you can't argue with what the boys have done so far. It's been absolutely fantastic to watch, and I have to say, in a long time at the club, to see us the way we are is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I
was scrolling on Twitter there, our Irish League statsman Marcel Gillespie's popping up with some absolute gems, which I think you'd be happy with. I think we've kept the most clean sheets in the league this season, and as an ex-defender, that must make you a bit happy about that, like.
No, it's absolutely fantastic, to be fair, and it's probably the part of the game where Rod looked back at last year. We scored plenty of goals, but we didn't keep enough clean sheets and we didn't keep the ball out of our net enough, so it's probably something that he's probably as proud of and worked on. But the style the lads are playing on the pitch, and you can see that they, as Simon said there, they're enjoying themselves, and it's fantastic to see. But the other side of the game, we're doing really well, and you could see it yesterday. Our shape out of possession was first class. Boys are digging in, winning headers, blocking, putting their bodies in the lane, wanting to keep clean sheets. And for me, that's most impressive, because we have players who have great quality on the ball, but it's the other side, and keeping clean sheets. You keep clean sheets, and I believe that we will score as a first team. The first team will score goals. There's no doubt about that. So if you keep clean sheets, you have a real good opportunity of winning the game.
Here, you can't win games without conceding or not conceding goals, really. Put it in context, we're recording this after the Lauren game, which we comprehensively won 3-0. European hangover or not, I think we pretty much deserved that match yesterday, didn't we? Like?
No, and again, on the ball yesterday, probably at times you could have been better, but again, as I said there, our shape out of possession was first class. Really hard to break down, limited Lauren to goal scoring opportunities, and whenever we got opportunities, we took them. When John McGovern strikes, absolutely first class yesterday. You were
actually speaking to Jarlath out there, and he was saying he doesn't know a lot about football. And then he must have been saying something about John, and then John turns up and does that. But John does all the work that nobody else sees. Everybody else does it, don't get me wrong. I'm not singling out John, but he's putting himself about as everybody is.
No, it's a difficult role for him yesterday. He's one man against their three centre halves. He's relying on other players to back him up at times. He put in some shift, and I actually thought when he got the ball yesterday, he done really well in terms of holding it up and linking the ball when he got it. When he gets one chance and puts it right in the top corner yesterday, so we can't really complain.
No, definitely not. No.
And Jarlath won't either.
No, probably better not. As you've touched upon, you've been around here for a very, very long time.
We feel old now, Charlie.
Oh, thanks very much. You're welcome. How long has it been since you've seen a Dungannon side play this well, and the consistency as well?
Yeah, I was going to say consistently. I mean, we've played well. People in the podcast can't see it, but obviously there's a picture on the wall here in the clubhouse of the Bet McLean Cup win. We had a really good bunch of players at that point. Our league form maybe wasn't fantastic, but we thoroughly deserved winning that cup. Massive high for me being involved in the club while we did that. In terms of consistency, you probably have to go back to when we finished fourth twice in the league, and we played in Europe twice, once through our league position and once through runners up of the Irish Cup. But back in those days, we were We were consistent. We've had players at the club that have propelled us, and that on one-off matches have been fantastic. But that consistency, and it probably touches on something that Chris said in terms of we're not conceding goals. We were always a team that had a goal threat, but we were looking at your games and you were saying, you know, to beat this team we might have to score 4, to beat this team we might have to score 3. And now that we're sort of, the consistency is coming from the hard work that the boys are doing at the back, because now we only maybe have to score 1 goal or 2 goals to get a result.
I'm going to stop you there. It's just not the back.
No, it's not the back. It's all over the whole pitch, 100%. You said you were talking about John McGovern. He's defending from the front. All the boys across the middle of the park are working hard, and that makes it slightly easier for the defenders. You would have loved that in your day playing. Obviously, even going right back to the keeper, whether it's Patrick or whether it's Decky,
he's come in and he's been brilliant.
He's been outstanding. He's a really young lad. He was at Larne for a period. He was at Coke playing last year. He was recommended to us. Rod had brought him in for a few training sessions and said, he's raw, but he's got a lot of potential. He's ended up in the first team probably sooner than he would have expected due to a few injury problems. And he's just really shown. He's just took to it. It hasn't fazed him. For a young lad, he's vocal. He's not afraid to shout at his defenders, and he's pulled off some fantastic saves. He's got a really good future ahead of him, as Patrick. We're glad that we're going to be a part of his journey. Again, Chris will be probably touching on journeys in his new role, but it's fantastic to see a young lad coming in. Obviously his work with Cookie in the first team as well has brought him on, but he's been a breath of fresh air. He's just such a lovely lad. I see him after matches. There was after the Linfield match, there was one of their fans that tweeted what a lovely fella he was. He came over and stood with their fans. I see him giving pairs of, he must be rich. He gives pairs of gloves away after every game. He gives stuff.
Has to be sponsored.
He goes over and he talks to the young fans and pats them on the head, and you know, he's a lot of time for everyone. He's a really genuine lad. And it's great to see that he's went in and it hasn't fazed him, and that he's helped us on our run. So it's been great.
Some great news for the club that Rodney had signed a new contract with the club. Obviously there was speculation with Tiernan Lynch going to Scotland, and obviously with Rodney doing so well, he was definitely going to be on Lauren's minds to replace Tiernan if he was to go. How important is that for the club and the group of players that we have, that Rodney is sticking around for another wee while?
It's obviously most vitally important for our first team, because our first team comes first and foremost. Probably from the role that I'm in, it's so vital, because Rodney staying filters the whole way down the club. You know, he makes a point of knowing every kid's name that comes in and wears a Dungannon Swifts jersey or a Dungannon United youth jersey at that, you know. And even for our young players to watch the brand of football that our first team are doing, you know, and my role, I'm trying to get as many young players going to first team games to watch and see it. And you know, there's so much having Rodney here as a club man and doing what he's doing. Don't get me wrong, he deserves everything he's got. He's worked hard for it, and you have to give him massive credit. And it was touched on the paper there during the week, I think, where he's built himself back up and he's reaping the rewards at the minute, and he thoroughly deserves it. In my opinion, there's only one person who could do that at this club, and it is Rodney. You know, and he brings the whole club along with him. You know, and it filters the whole way through. So, you know, on a first team's perspective, it's 100%. It's massive. You know, it's so hard to replace. And it's great that he's going to be around for another 3 years, and I hope he's here for a lot longer than that, to be honest with you. But for the full club, you know, everyone else just gets on the train and goes with it, and it definitely helps pull everyone through. And you know, hopefully we can filter that into the youth setup as well. You
deal with them a lot as well.
Yep.
Be honest. How difficult or how easy is it to work with them?
It's relatively easy. I mean, we would talk several times a day, not even a week at times.
You talk several times an hour?
Well, at times, probably several times an hour, whenever you're coming up to transfer deadlines and Rod's at you to try and get paperwork done or try and push a player over the line or whatever. He's very easy to work with. He's very realistic. He's very realistic about where we are as a club in terms of finance. He's very realistic in terms of targeting the players that he wants to sign. And players that, I mean, sometimes you go for a player and you're kind of thinking, we'll never if that the wage demands are going to be too. But the thing about Rod, when he's signing players, is players want to come and play for Rod.
So he's a big influence.
Yeah, but sometimes that way we can actually influence. Rod can influence a player in that we can go and say, this is all we can offer in terms of a wage, and to be fair to the players, because they have that desire to work under Rod, the negotiation becomes that much easier because they know the pluses of coming to Dungannon Swifts and working like someone Rod and working like a club like ours. So sometimes we can maybe get a player that we are not maybe thinking ourselves, we'll never be able to get that player, but the Rod influence certainly will give us that maybe that wee bit of extra edge over somebody else. And going back, I mean, it was a massive blow to us whenever Rod had left, and obviously we had a couple of managers from that, and I'm not knocking those managers at all. Worked with Chris very closely, the same as Rod, and obviously Dean, and both fantastic managers, both fantastic skill sets. But going back to what you said about Rod being Dungannon Swifts through and through, that's to me the difference in why it works for Rod, because it's a joke, I suppose, but you cut Rod in two and he's got Dungannon Swifts in him, and that's the honest truth. And as I said, part of the reason why is because that comes off Rod, that radiates off Rod, and the boys in the changing room and the youth players and everyone picks that up, that Rod is just so passionate about this club, and that spreads. And you can't help but be infected by it, because it's just a true love for the club.
He touched on something in his interview with Sarah once he signed his contract about happiness, and then it's quite apt today in work. We've one of those little thought for the day calendars. Today's quote was, I was sitting in class and the teacher asked me what it'd be when I grew up, and the answer was happy. And the teacher said, no, you can't be that. Like, that's not the answer to the question. But obviously the little guy said, oh, you just didn't understand the assignment. Rodney said, happiness is a big part in life, never mind football. How important is it to enjoy your football at the same time as being happy?
Well, if you actually listen to Rod and Rod's interviews, and probably since I've known him, for me is saying that he says very, very often is smiles and faces. Yeah. Because if you're happy in what you're doing, if you're happy in what you're training,
it doesn't feel like work.
No.
Yeah.
And he brings that environment, and he sets that environment, and that's massive for players to grow. And what I've noticed is we've signed senior players as well this year, and we have a lot of young players. But if they're happy, they'll continue to improve at a later age and get better.
They'll want to keep playing.
Aye, and they carry the young lads with them as well, because they're happy.
Yeah.
And you create that environment. So, I mean, Rod I think he lives by that saying, because he says it very, very often. It's something that sticks with me, coaching the young kids, smiles and faces, because that's how you improve and that's how you get better, because you enjoy what you do.
Speaking of coaching young kids and smiles and faces, what's your new title?
Everything. Football development officer. And I'm fortunate, really, really fortunate. Look, last year I enjoyed coaching a lot, especially working beside a really good friend of mine in Ryan.
Before you get on, you just need to list your accomplishments of what you achieved with Ryan and your under 15 squad last year.
The biggest accomplishment last year was the development of the players, to be brutally honest. And me and Ryan sat down at the end of the season and said that was our biggest accomplishment last year. Reason being is we struggled at the start of the year, but we stuck by our guns, and I think everyone around us seen that we were hurting inside and in terms of what we were putting in, but we could see the performances. And I remember the first time we ever took the group of lads, the 2009s, me and Ryan took them up the back and we went, what a group of players we have. And then whenever the season started to unfold, you were going, right, how do we get better? We weren't winning games, but the performances were there, and after Christmas it seemed to click with the lads, and we started to push players up in the age group and dipping them back in and out. And when we started to pick up results, we went down to, like, put it into context, Linfield beat us 4-1 at the start of the year, and we went up to Windsor, Midgley, after Christmas. I think it was maybe January or February, and we beat them 2-1. And I think that gave the lads a belief, that they could go and compete.
Yeah.
And that just seemed to keep filtering through. And we kept saying the same things to them: keep working hard, keep the tempo high, keep moving the ball quicker.
Did you say smiles and faces?
Smiles and faces. Probably did at some point. But look, there wasn't too many smiles and faces at the time. The first.
That's part and parcel of football.
Yeah. But we stuck to our guns, and we knew we had a good squad to work with, a really good squad and a talented squad. But we went on then to win the Northern Ireland Cup and the Cross Border Cup. But it was the players' development that whole season, and seeing that is probably what ended up me retiring from football. It was part and parcel of it. I remember turning around to myself and going, if we win the Northern Ireland Cup here today, I think I have to retire. And it was in my head, I was going, what happens if we do this today? That's it. And the performance the lads put on, it was fantastic for them. It was young lads to go and to achieve what they did. And it's only a small stepping stone in their short career, but to go from where they were at the start of the year to the end of the year and now continue on this year, it's been first class for them. Really, really good, really enjoyable, and to see that. So that's what we have to keep doing. We have to keep raising the bar now and keep their standards high. As Choka says to me, it's one of the first things Choka said to me when he's coaching. His standards. I always used to go, what's he on about? Standards. Now I understand.
Now you understand. Was coaching always something you wanted to do, or did that just happen?
I think it happens. Like, obviously when you're playing, you're fully focused on your playing career, and everyone says to you, "Oh, you'll be a coach. Like Dixie would have said, you'll be a coach, 100%." And you get that focused on it in your playing. And I was fully head down type of player, full hearted. Whenever I'm doing something, just in life in general, I'd say they're all in or not. It was probably another part of my reason of retiring. And then obviously I went into started coaching the Sundays with Dixie and Mark, and then next thing you know, the opportunity came up to take the 2009s, and it just takes over you. It's unreal. And see, again, that comes down to development. See, when you see the improvement in what you're doing, the young lads, that's getting better, and hopefully you'll make a difference to them, hopefully getting the first team at someday. So,
well, to be fair, at board level, once you had made your decision to retire, we're going to have to talk to Chris here. We're going to have to keep him within the club. He's too good, and such a good servant to the club to leave. So there was a few chats back and forwards, obviously, and thankfully he was happy to stay on board and get more involved this year on the coaching side of it than he was last year. As a club administrator, I end up doing 90%
How hard was
of
it
the
to
work.
teach to use
Very
Comet?
easy, very easy.
we've got someone to do that. Mark Hopper.
He's very computer literate in his day job, and he introduced a young lad, Mark Hopper, who's very interested in the admin side. Chris himself is very hands on in terms of doing things on the system and digging stats out of it. Paddy, one of the other youth coaches, is the same. So now it's went from me being the only one that ever logged into Comet, apart from some of those putting the team sheet in, to there's now 4 or 5 people in the club taking an active interest in it, which is fantastic. And don't tell Mark Hopper, but he's going to be the next me at the club. He's
I actually
gonna be
uploaded
it.
I got them photos done for you this
Good
week.
man, there you
Simon,
go. We bit
here.
of pressure off.
Whenever I
Quality.
remember, whenever we were signing a club or a player from another club, and they may have had, say, we're signing someone from Cliftonville, we can't have their photo when the match day comes on. We have to have a Swift photo on. And the panic that Simon was running around with his phone, getting the headshot of some player just to get it on the Comet.
That's just
like,
OCD.
no one pays attention to that.
That's just OCD kicking in there, you know. And I learned from a couple of people at the club, in my development.
That's what it is.
Standards, and those people were I would count them my mentors in terms of what I was doing, and it was very different over there, because when you signed a player before, it was a fax machine to a fax machine in Belfast, so and that was Joe Mackery and Carol Mackery. Keeping on the theme of the Mackeries, and so they basically taught me from scratch in terms of all the admin side of it. It's changed now, and if you talk to Carol, she'll freely admit. She could maybe send a fax, but she wouldn't be doing anything on Comet. And that's where the attention to detail comes, because see, when you're doing a job for Joe Mack, the first 40 times you do that job,
Yeah.
he's looking over your shoulder, and he will make sure you do it right 40 times before he lets you do it once on your own.
Yeah.
So it drives it into you to be as correct as possible. I mean, it's a tough job on the admin side. It's a thankless job in many terms, because it's a. If you look at some of the big clubs, especially in England, what us as part-time administrators do, which the majority of clubs are in the Irish League, an Arsenal or a Man City will have a department of 20 people doing what one person in our club's doing part-time. But it's just that involvement. It stays like that. Winning the cup, it's where we're sitting in the league at the minute. It just makes it all worthwhile. You're getting through the semi-final of a cup when we played in Europe. And I think those highs outweigh any of the stress that Rod or whoever would give you on transfer deadline day to get your paperwork done, because you want to be there for those highs. And I'd say anyone who's watching this has said it's definitely worthwhile. Get involved in the club. I started here doing stadium announcing, and I've ended up doing what I'm doing because I just got sucked in. And as much as I would win the odd time, I wouldn't want to do anything else.
You don't.
It's absolutely
I started in the bar.
belonging is unbelievable. I did the bar too. I was bar manager for a while.
And
Everyone at this club does everything.
Yeah.
You know. And
Is this one of those
gets you
things where you
sucked
just
in.
can't get rid of them, can you?
No, it's
But you wouldn't want to.
no, not at all. No. Absolutely. And as I said, the highs far outweigh any lows that there are, and you live for those highs. I mean, at this club, as you know, all three of us were involved when that day was happening, and basically, this club was on a high for a month after that. Really, it was absolutely unbelievable.
Oh, must have been day 4.
But that's the days you live for, and sometimes I don't feel sorry for them, because just for example, a Linfield fan, they don't experience the same highs as us, because they have got into a habit, and they're a fantastic club, fantastically well run, where they're nearly expecting a win. Whereas if we go out like we did on Sunday, and we go to the home of the champions, and we put in a performance, and we win 3-0, to me that's a massive high.
Big time.
Massive high. If a Linfield or whatever go and do that, I don't think they get
No.
the same high, because wins almost
It's their
expected.
expectations. Though.
Which isn't, I mean, at the end of the day, that's the club, and it's the size of the club. So I think for a smaller club, achieving those heights, the highs are so much bigger, because I think maybe it's down to you appreciate them more, because they don't come around as often for a club of our size, so you really enjoy them when they do. And I mean, coming back to the clubhouse the night that we won the cup, I can't believe the roof was still on. It was absolutely
That's why they had to get the seats changed, everybody, because there was too much beer flying about.
But that was a good night. That's a good night, and that's the nights that you live for when you're at a small club.
Touching back on your new role, just describe exactly what you're going to be doing, just for the people who don't know.
Well, I suppose since I came in, we've introduced VO, making sure that all the games are recorded in terms of our coaches and the players can go back and visit them. So part and parcel is to develop the players, and it's something that I'm obviously passionate about, because we have young lads there that do ball boy on a Saturday that also play for the team. So they're lads that I can affiliate with. So for me, it's great. You know, when I just want to get them to as high a standard as I can. So we've introduced VO, which all the youth teams will now record their games. The coaches can then look back at them to see how we improve the players. So it's another detail that we've added on, because we have great coaches here. We've introduced the strength and conditioning sessions with Stuart Bell, which is vastly important too, because if you go back to Terry Devlin and Ryan Donnelly over lockdown, they probably admit themselves as well that they worked really, really hard at their strength and conditioning over lockdown, and they came back better players for it. So it's something that we're trying to implement. And look, we have great coaches here. Probably my role is to support them and make sure they have everything they need. You know, we've brought in Mark Savage with their under 14s, and he's managed Dollingstown. You know, he's played here for how many years? 7 years, he told me. He's played in the Irish League. He captained the club. I'm not going to tell Mark Savage what to do. You know, he'll be giving them all the right information. He's on the phone to me. He's working tirelessly hard with under 14 age group. So my role is just really to support them and anything they see, and to be that bounce off that they can talk to and communicate, and to continue to push our players on and continue to raise the standards, and to test the players whenever they need tested. I just think it's a matter of, you know, being there for your coaches. I think if you give them the tools, our coaches are more than capable of using them. So I suppose it's just a matter of, you know, overseeing that, making sure that the lads are being pushed on when they are, and asking the coaches the right questions, and who should be and who shouldn't be pushed on, you know, at times, and who's doing well, and you have to reward that. And it's something we drive into our players. You know, you get to where you are by your performances, and you will be rewarded. That's the key thing. I think, you know, you have to show reward whenever the lads are doing well. But look, in terms of myself, I'm only starting out in my coaching journey. I've only been at it for 2 years, really. And I've so many great people that I can bounce off. And Ryan, you know, you have Dixie there as well, who's great knowledge and oversees everything as well, and he's someone that I can bounce off. And then obviously you have Rodney as well. So look, there's great people here. I'm not going to tell, you know, good fellas how to do their jobs. You know, I'm just going to make sure that we continue to develop young players, and that's a big part of what I want to do. I want to get them into Rodney's first team, and it mightn't be this year, but hopefully a couple of years down the line, Rodney's reaping the rewards from players getting into the first team, and that's what it's all about.
Well, I wish you all the very best in your role, and I'm sure you do the same.
Absolutely, yeah. He started off on fire. I don't know how he has the time to do it, because he's into the minute detail, and again, he's messaging me left, right and centre, which I don't mind at all. And it was maybe those wee nuts and bolts that we needed to tighten up at times. But he's such a fine detail person that nothing slips by him. I think he's perfect for the role. We'll see how it gets on. But at the minute, we have a very happy group of coaches. And as I said, he's looking after his own team, which is a job in itself. And then looking after, as he said, all the other coaches, making sure everything's in place for them. And as I said, it was very important, and we wanted him to stay within the system, so we were delighted when he said that he would come on board and even extend his role a little bit, in terms of, because I don't have time to look after that, and Keith the chairman doesn't have time, Rodney doesn't have time, so you have to have someone in that role that you can trust, that can then report back and know what's going on. It's fantastic that he's a club man as well.
I know.
So
I would say, if I was to put you into, I say, top whatever of Swift's men, I think you would be a top 5. Honestly, like, obviously Joe and Rodney, Dixie would probably be up there too, Choka, and then I would probably put you in there too.
It wouldn't be far
You've
off.
just been here for so long.
It wouldn't be far off.
It just sticks in you, doesn't it? I don't know if the wife's too happy about it all the time. Look,
she signed up for that.
It's just one of them things, you know. You come into it and you're made felt welcome, and you get back from it, as Simon knows, and you know yourself, whatever you put into it, you get back out of it by your own personal reward, I think, more so than anything, you know. But
it's going back to what we were saying about Rodney and him radiating the club, and Chris does that too. He was a mascot here, he played here. I mean, the club gave him a chance to go and play over in England and Scotland, which I think he really appreciates, because he had that springboard. He's come back, he's given back to the club, and the fact that he is another thing else for this person through and through, means that he will set himself standards to his own work, because he's working for a club that he loves, and I think it becomes easy at that point, because you're not an outsider coming in and trying to get motivated. You're doing it because you love the club, which makes the job easier too, because you're coming to somewhere that you love. You're doing something that you love. You're seeing, as you said earlier, you're seeing boys that are playing in the team and doing ball boys, so you're seeing yourself in those lads, and it must be very easy then for you to go and empathise with those lads and give them that wee push. This club needs youth players.
That's
Chris
how
knows
this club is
we
still.
all know it. I think in the team that won, harping back to that again, the League Cup, there was something like 8 or 9 players in that squad that had come through the youth, or played for the youth, or played for the Swifts at a youth age, which is a phenomenal number. And again, when you're maybe trying to recruit players and you're trying to sell the club to them, if youth players come to this club, they'll get a chance in the first team. If they put their heads down, they work hard, they believe in the process, listen to their coaches, there's a pathway right through to the first team, and there's a pathway with that of winning major trophies. So I think Chris is a vital part of that, because he's been there and done that and wants to push other boys doing that too.
We have to give Dixie great credit too, to be fair, because he was the one that worked hard in terms of getting myself in to take a team. You've Ryan Harper as well, taking a team. And obviously you've my brother Mark, and then you have Mark Savage, who worked tirelessly pestering to get him in, and then you have Finbar as well, who's an FAI licensed coach as well.
And
So
another ex-player. Yeah, we seem to be getting people that have the club at heart.
But like
back,
obviously we'll call it the Swifts effect has rubbed off on them. Like they know what the club's about.
I've spoke to Savo on it, and he says it was a massive part of him coming back. He was nervous. I was on the phone to him there actually last night. He said to me for the first time, he says he was actually nervous coming back in. But he felt the buzz and he felt the vibe, and even Rodney speaking to him and Rodney taking interest in the lads and the training, and Rodney come into the dressing room, he didn't even know he was there, and then came and spoke to the kids, and it rubs off on him, as you said. That affection of the club just rubs off on you, and it's great to have them lads. Again, we go back to standards, and these are guys with very, very high standards, in terms of how they played, and what they're giving back, like. So it's important that we keep the standards high, we keep trying to promote our youth, and we create that environment and culture that I think that's important to me, so that the kids can thrive in, and it goes back to what Rod says, smiles on faces, create your environment, your culture, to get the lads pushing on. So we've just got to keep the head down. We're a small club, and keep trying to keep the conveyor belt moving.
I mean, you look at that wee team that Savo and Finbar are taking, and I know from talking to Savo in terms of like the proudest he could be is if eventually in the future there's a long payoff, obviously, when you're starting with a young age group, but if some of his team end up maybe repeating something like that, or maybe playing in his fifth team that qualifies for Europe, or you know what I mean, and that's what I know that's what drives a lot of players, because Salvo really enjoyed his time playing here. He was club captain. He was, I think he was the captain of the team that got us promoted into the Premier League. I know, speaking to him, he absolutely loved the club. He loved being here, and again that rubs off. But I think for him, in his role and looking about the way he goes about his business, I think there will be a massive pride within the likes of someone like Savo when if he sees some of the boys he's coaching now reaching the first team and maybe playing in a massive game for the club, maybe even pushing boys across the water too. That's always a possibility. But and I know that's it with you too, because you have pushed some of the players yourself, and Harps have pushed some of the players up as far as the first team, which is under 15s last year, and you no one in the first team. Obviously a wee bit young for that, but I know that there's several boys that have played under 20s and gone about their business well. So that, I mean, it's fantastic to see, and that is, to me, the role of a development coach is for you to make those boys better and push them up into the next age group and get them to challenge themselves at that higher age group and take the next step and instill that sort of drive and passion into them. There's so many footballers over the years that have got masses of ability. But unfortunately, sometimes maybe it's either luck or attitude that maybe stops them from getting. Luck is a big part, but if you've got ability and we can help you with the right attitude, hopefully you'll be ready when you get that maybe a wee touch of luck to be in the right place at the right time and end up maybe going across the water, or end up playing in the first team, or even in this day and age, let's be honest, because the reality of it, going to full-time football with a Larne or a Linfield or whatever it is, and I think we've got a great platform at this club to do that, because of the attitude of the coaches is infectious for the players. And there's so many ex-players who have the club at heart, and they want to see those players doing well. Obviously Chris is very focused on his own team, but as I said, he is an overall, well, I'm going to say this, like, it sounds glamorous, youth development officer. He's kind of like me, and this is the truth about behind the scenes stuff. He's kind of a gopher. Do you know what I mean? I need balls, I need bibs, I need this, I need that. Can you do this on comment? Can you sign this player? Can you make sure that this is done? But it all makes the club tick, and you need everyone pulling every way, whether it's front of house or back of house.
No better man for it though.
You have to, you like, we come in last year and we went and spent £200 on equipment, and I didn't want to ask anyone about the club, to be honest with you. Because
you know what you would have got.
But that's just me and Ryan, that's the way we are. We just go and get it done. And
Yeah.
look, we're here, and again, Ryan's been absolutely tremendous as well. He's got, I mean, he's a lot going on in terms of with the first team as well. The fact that he gives his time up to give the lads the information, and even for myself and my own learning, the two of us bounce off each other, and it's absolutely brilliant. So look, I feel we're in a great way, and we have a great pathway. We want to make it better and better every time. We have to evaluate all the time, and for me, you know, it will be great to see one of the young lads coming through, probably more so from the 16s downwards at the minute, because it's what I've worked with the most. But it'll be great to see that, and that takes time, and ultimately that's what we want, and that's what the club needs.
Yeah.
You know, and the pathway now for players is probably playing 50 to 100 first team games anyhow. You know, it's probably as good as pathway as there is, you know, unless you're going over to a top flight Premier League side. You know, it's probably going there in your stripes, the likes of Oisin Smith and Terry Devlin. You look at 100%. Terry now, he's absolutely flying.
He is. He's been called up in Northern Ireland under 21s again.
Yeah, he's called up, and also you touched on Oisin there, who made a move and came on in one of his first appearances and scored 2 goals in the Scottish Premier League. Fantastic to see him doing well too. Hopefully he can get more appearances in and more game time in. And as you say, the pathway for those players, you look at Conor Bradley, who went at a very young age, and he's the players at that tend to be, as you would know, the exception, whereas you now look at the pathway. Stuarty Dallas, you look at Oisin, you look at Terry Devlin, the amount of games that they had in our first team, which nearly makes them a more attractive proposition to teams, because they know that they're getting players still at a young age but that have proved themselves in adult football. So I, as a message, I wouldn't be worried if you're a young lad at 16 that the be all and end all is to get a move out of this country, because sometimes if you wait till you're 18, 19, you've got those first team. I mean, another example is Ethan McGee. I mean, he played over 100 times for our first team and got a move to Linfield. I still think he's destined for a chance across the water, and he's still young. People forget he's still young, but he's got 100 plus first team games with us, and he went and tore it up with Linfield too.
Do you know the 3 lads? The thing that stands out for me, obviously knowing them, but the 3 great attitudes, and they kept sticking at it, and you know, it was their attitude that got them to where they are now, and will continue to, you know, get them to where they're going to be in their footballing career, which is fantastic. And it's something that sticks with me, you know, in terms of good habits. And even we're bringing in, introducing this strength and conditioning, and trying to get the lads to do as much away from the training ground as possible, obviously with school work and other sports going on, you know, but it's all about habits and creating good habits. And I remember my first time going across the water, and I couldn't lift myself and do a pull-up, and I was walking into the gym, and there's boys 16 years of age doing 20 pull-ups, and I was going, I'm so far behind, but I was kind of wary and wore my heart in my sleeve a wee bit, you know. But so that's what kind of I feel that we need to keep to introduce to lads, and keep them reminding them that good habits, you mightn't be there yet, but you could be a late developer. And I use me and Harps as an example. Harps was always the kid that was going across the water when he was 12, 13 years of age, where I was the last minute, one good game and one opportunity, and signed in the spot, you know. I wasn't going probably. So there's all different pathways, and every kid's journeys and every player's journey is different.
The same.
No,
that's in life as well. Like, everybody's different.
And it's the attitude will eventually get you there to where you want to be. So
and it's how you bounce back from setbacks. Because I know earlier when he was younger that Terry had a few chances and went to a few clubs across the water, and it didn't work out for him, but he never took that he wouldn't get a chance. He got his head down and he kept working. His dream was always to go and play full-time football, which he has now achieved. So he didn't let the knockbacks knock him back. It actually made him more determined to get to where he was.
You learn more from your knockbacks.
It just totally depends on how you react to them, and I think obviously as a club that's for us to do too. If a player is, mental health is a mad part of it, and especially with young players, that you know, you would get a feeling when one of your players just wasn't right, and you can make sure that you rally around and you make sure things are 100%, as well as anything physical, and as well as that it's a duty of care to make sure, back to smiles on faces, just to make sure everything's good, because I don't know, I'm going to show my age here, but I think the pressures on young people in this day and age are far more than I faced whenever I was that age, just because of the digital world. And I think there's tons of pressure. I think it was more simple for me. We just, where I live, we just would have had a football in a field and kicked it around or rode around on our bikes, whereas now there's just constant communication and there's social media and whatever else. So there's a lot more pressure and a lot more outside influence in young kids, and that's part of what we're here to do as well. Is to make sure that there's a safe space here for kids, that they can express themselves, that they can come, have a smile on their face, meet up with their mates, enjoy football, and all being well, give those kids a platform maybe to make a career. Some maybe more than others, but all those kids will find their level, and they'll level out at that level.
At the same time too, Simon, you're creating them for life as well.
For life as well, 100%. Yeah,
if you create good attitudes and hard-working lads, they will be successful in other aspects of life as well. So it's something I do think about as well, because we're not going to create, how many kids have we got from 16 down? About 60 players, I think there's. All 60 of them's not going to be footballers. But if we can create them, or if we can help them become good young adults and with a hard-working ethic and have an attitude to get to where they want to in life, then we've done our job as well. There's a lot more to just.
There's a lot more to football than just football.
Yeah. And they'll have a support group for life, because I still see you in Facebook and whatever, and you're still in contact with all the players that you would have played with at youth level. So I mean, those bonds they'll stay with you throughout life as well, because the guys that you're out playing with for every Saturday and training with 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever it may be, they're then your peer group, they're your lifelong friends. So you're actually setting up people with a ready-made support network as well. I mean, and it's not just with football, it's with any sport. I mean, I think kids should be encouraged to go out and play sport, whatever level, whatever type of sport, because you will make friendships that will last you your whole life, without a doubt. And as you said, it's not just about developing elite athletes, it's about giving people the tools to succeed in life as well.
You even go back to the Sundays that Mark and Dixie run, the development centre that they have going. There's kids, I remember kids coming in first 2-3 weeks so nervous and shy and down on themselves and having their parent hold their hand on the way in. 3-4 weeks later down the line, they're like a different
sprinting onto the pitch.
And there's parents coming over to Dixie and Mark after the session saying, "Wee Jimmy, he's even thriving in school now. He's so much,
It's the confidence thing.
And, and you're meeting different people, and you go back to networking. You could end up being a builder, and you have a network, and you end up working for a guy in Bangor that you played football with, and he gets you jobs and stuff. So it's
fantastic. The one other thing that we'll touch on, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Chris will probably be involved in this too. He doesn't know it yet. But we've obviously partnered up with Mid-Ulster Ladies this season, which has been fantastic. They've had a really tough season on the pitch, but a couple of weeks ago they won the Mid-Ulster Cup, which was great for them to finish the season on a wee bit of a high. And it's one of the things, because I know you're continually looking at how we can help people and get back into the community, because we are a community club. So we're trying to work with them at the minute in a wee inclusive programme, which we haven't as this club, and it's poor, but we haven't done something like that and we haven't had resources. So in terms of maybe reaching out to some of the kids, SEN kids and whatever else, I know I've spoken to John Gregg and I've spoken to Mid-Ulster, and everyone's very keen, so we're going to get something put together, do a wee programme, and again, that's totally about putting smiles on people's faces and giving kids an outlet, and so watch the space, that'll be happening. We'll be doing a wee bit of investigation as to how we get it set up, how we get it running. One of the biggest things, where we can slot in maybe an hour-and-a-half session on a pitch, because this place is crazy with all the teams and all the coaching, so we'll have to get a word with Dixie. No, not at all. But that's something that this as a club we're looking to do, and again to give back, because that's what we're about. We're a football club, but we're not we're not like a Man United where we're owned by
Community,
people that are
yeah.
looking to make a profit. We're here for the community and to give back to the community. And I said the charitable trust that we set up has done a fantastic job at that, and now we're going to maybe try and get a wee bit of give back on the pitch as well. So fingers crossed we can get that up and running.
What's the official name of it, or is it that?
It's just a partnership. It'll be Dungannon Swiss Mid-Ulster Ladies inclusive partnership. So it'll be open to boys and girls, and we'll touch on the local schools and whatnot to see is there anyone. The IFA, I tell you what it came from, and to be fair, because people don't give the IFA credit at times, it was Robert Davison came down and did I think it was 3 sessions, but there was only maybe 6 kids at it. And I kind of looked at it and I talked to one of the coaches who was at it from Mid-Ulster. The advertising probably wasn't targeted right in terms of getting the word out. So I think we can do that better, and we'll maybe start with a wee 8 or 10 week program. And try and get people down to it. Because I was talking to Dixie about it too, because there used to be a group here that Dixie, I can't remember who the other coach was, but Dixie and someone ran. He said it was absolutely joyous to be able to give back, and it's not all about elite athletes, it's about seeing people going back to the theme with smiles on their faces
themselves. That's what you want.
Absolutely. So yeah, as I said, watch this space. We'll be getting together the Mid-Ulster Ladies, and hopefully the Hags doesn't know this, or Rod doesn't know it. I'm going to be going to them, and hopefully
It's the first year hearing about it too.
But if we can slot it in the right time, in terms of maybe on a Tuesday or Thursday before first team training, I'm not sure what the pitch situation is, that we can make sure that we can make sure that we can maybe get a first team player down every now and again, and because kids just love seeing first team players, and little bouncing off them and kicking balls. It's just as I said, it's a wee occasion just to lift everybody and to give something back to the community. So fingers crossed. Whether it happens before Christmas or after, we'll have to see.
Well, it's happening.
It's 100%. 100% it's happening. As I said, I talked to Elaine, chairperson over at Mid-Ulster. She is incredibly keen to get it done.
Good.
And they're actually incredibly, just in case it happens to be anyone watching this who has a girl that wants to play football, get in touch with us as a club or Mid-Ulster, because Mid-Ulster are crying out looking girls to give football a go. Ability. Good. Does not matter. They just want to see more and more and more girls playing football and enjoying it. That's what they're about. If some of them end up like Simone McGill and Jackie Burns and end up playing for the senior international teams, so be it. But they would like to make strides over our area. They're very well established in Cookstown, but they want to try and see is there a way that they can partner up with us and get some girls coaching over this side as well, because they just want to see so much more participation. They've got like a wee, I think, mini dribblers or something, and I've seen pictures of it, and it's just, we girls have no height,
up to your knee,
kicking football and just enjoying themselves.
That's what it starts from.
100%. That's what it's about. Yeah.
Bit of a fun one to finish up on. I was listening to, I think it was Gary Neville mentioned it. I was actually listening to the radio. To make the Premier League games more exciting after a 0-0 draw, he would introduce a penalty shootout. I don't know if I would enjoy that, but if there was any rule changes in football, you can't say what you said to me outside because there's bad words in it, and the kids watch this. If there was any rules in football, it would change. What would it be? For me to go, I'll go first. Stopping the clock when the referee stops the game. That's when you know. That's when you know the injury time. Yes, exactly. Okay, that's when you know the injury time is going to be fair, and Fergie time will be no more.
Right, and then you're adding penalties on top of it.
Well, no, I'm not a fan of the penalties. Like, for example, right, back in the day, say we're going to Windsor Park. We're talking to each other through the week. I would love to take a little draw up there. Like, you'd bite your arm off for that.
Right, so you're stopping the clock?
No. This is no. This is back to the penalties.
Oh, sorry, right, yeah.
Right, so if we went up to, say, back in the day, we went up to Windsor Park. It's
so
here.
Did you still get 3 points if you won a penalty shootout?
No, so you would get an extra point.
Oh, so you'd get it. Each team would get a point for the draw, and whoever won the penalty shootout
get
gets
an extra point.
One.
But then that would take away the.
I think that would get
nervousness of a penalty shootout. Penalty shootouts are great to watch in cup finals and all. Don't get me wrong. Like, yes, but after every draw,
you get bored on that.
You get bored.
Like, the excitement wouldn't be there.
1 point. I know. Yeah, I can
definitely
see
wouldn't be the stop clock at Windsor Park.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, no.
45 guaranteed minutes. I'm trying to slow the game down. As much
No,
as
but
possible.
that's what I mean. But like, the referee's not gonna. If you're passing the ball around the back, the referee's not gonna stop the ball or stop the clock. But if the ball for fouls, if the ball goes out of play, the clock isn't stopped.
Do you know how
That's
much
what
longer
it
that would
is.
make game?
No, but you still play your 45 minutes. But it wouldn't be this +3 and then imagine we were.
You haven't been at Windsor Park before in the middle of it.
It's a
when
massive
your back's
pitch.
against the wall.
No, but don't get me wrong, right? So say if we're here, right? We're winning 1-0. The board goes up 4 minutes. The referee plays to 5. The other team score. Like, are you not going to the referee and says you should have stopped the game a minute ago?
Possibly, but the
play
thing
the
about it
whistle,
is, and
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an example.
That's another thing as well.
Well,
Teaching your kids playing the
playing the
whistle.
whistle.
See this whole he's offside, and
We
they
don't
know
have
finally he's not.
linesmen.
You know what I mean?
Eventually,
Yeah.
teaching to play to the whistle.
I'm just going to kibosh your idea. Sorry.
Right. No, that's okay.
American football games last an hour, but it takes 4 hours to play them.
Oh, don't even.
So
I watched
if-
highlights of the other day.
If you're stopping
and it
and
was just
starting the
awful.
clock, a football game, which is 90 minutes, could then take 4.5 hours to play if you're stopping the clock every time.
Well, it depends if you don't have him trying to stop the play every 2 minutes.
I don't honestly know what rule I would bring. I heard a discussion years ago, and it's to do with penalties, and it's an absolutely bonkers idea. But whenever people ask me about rules, it's always the one I bring up because it is a discussion starter. In that, see if you're in a cup match, somebody I was on Radio 5 Live, which I listen to, as you know. You've been driven up and down the road in my car. 5 Live's always on. I don't think it was Gary Neville. It's a long time ago before he was playing. It shows my age again. But if you're in a cup final, say for example, what you do is you have the penalty shootout first.
No.
And whoever wins the penalty shootout gets 1 goal, and then every other goal in the match counts as 2, so it can never be a draw. And then no one's crushed when they've missed a kick and a penalty that cost their team a cup, which I thought was
don't get that, no.
intriguing. But
It is, but
it's
it
bonkers.
just- I know.
It's
It makes no
bonkers.
sense. Would you introduce sin bins to football?
Simbins?
No.
Would you introduce, say, another colour of card, say blue card?
No.
No.
Just to keep it simple. I think that's the old VARs made it complicated and make it.
Would
too
you take
complicated.
VAR out of the game?
I think it has its pluses and its negatives. I
I
don't
need
like.
to-
I don't
while
like
yous are
this. I
chatting,
don't
I'm
like
going to
the-
find this on Instagram. I actually saw it.
It's
I don't like. I don't like this one
VAR.
though, where the offside's not offside until they
Yeah.
come back and someone could get clattered, and as a centre
VAR.
half, you're having to run back until they blow the whistle.
It's a good system that has been implemented poorly.
Yeah.
At times, I think whenever you're looking at a match and a VAR decision's taken 4, 5, 6 minutes,
See, that does my head in.
that to me is the problem of it. And again, yeah, it's VAR, but as we've seen in some decisions, was it the massive one in the Liverpool game last season where there was a
Was it Liverpool and Spurs, maybe?
something
I
like
don't
that,
know.
where there's still a human element and they still managed to get the decision wrong
know.
even though they looked at it for 5 minutes. So I like the idea of it, but I don't like the way it's maybe worked out.
I think you have to make it as black and white as possible, and I know it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But you keep the game as
It comes
simple as
down
possible, and
to-
it brings the enjoyment back into it, even slowing the game down.
It's the goals. It's you can't celebrate a goal properly now.
But that's, I mean, even if you slow the game down in terms of a full 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, was there not a stat in one of the World Cups where the ball was only in play for 17 minutes or
Something
something?
stupid like that, yeah, it was very small.
Yeah,
But the,
Sure,
the
like us,
games
but
there
sure
to
they
be
were
played
playing
quick.
13 minutes extra time after. Baffling. Right, I'll go through these here. So, this is Sport Bible on Instagram. So, one of them says, make the managers take the last penalty. Like, I don't know where people
Rod
get
would
these from.
enjoy that, to be
Rod,
fair.
Rod would give it a go. I saw
The
him
only
there
thing-
the other night after training.
think
Him and
his
Dixie
hips
were taking a
would
penalty.
might-
No, the only thing is Dixie
Rod
would
can pick
probably
one.
be
not-
looking to go next then because
Not after the video that was out there for his, what was it, 40th or 50th?
Whatever, 50th I think it was.
Aye,
Yeah,
no,
aye,
not after that.
We'll not go there. Yeah.
Make referees have to do press conferences after the game.
I don't disagree with that because sometimes you are looking at a referee and the decision that he's made, and why should they not be?
I wouldn't say
accountable?
right after a game.
No, not right
'Cause
after, but
emotions too high. I would think,
cooling down period.
cooling down period, 48-hour rule on a Monday. They have to come out and explain themselves.
Although having said that,
I think
as a player, some referees will explain themselves on the pitch, which and referees are. Let's not get into bashing referees. Referees are human.
I would not want to do the job.
Referees have a decision to make, and that they've no replays. They have to judge what they've seen. Sometimes they maybe get help from officials. Sometimes those officials won't have seen it, or they'll have seen it from a different angle. So you might get a perspective. It's a really, really tough job. But to me, if a referee is honest, gives what he sees, you can ask for no more than that, because it's a I'm not going to swear, but it's a really, really, really tough job. It's a really tough job.
This is like a school playground one. You win the penalty, you take the penalty.
You should have told that to Arsenal when Perez and Thierry Henry messed up the penalty, if you remember.
Oh, they were trying to do some sort of funky thing.
We're not here to
like,
talk about Arsenal.
No, but it's just like but they had a stupid rule that whoever was fouled didn't take the penalty,
right?
And they were trying to then set up either Perez or Henry for a goal, and one of them tried to roll it one turn, and then the other one was coming, and they've absolutely
the mess. I have seen that work though. I have seen that work, and don't get me wrong, you make the goalkeeper look like an absolute fool.
but they made themselves look
when
like
it goes wrong, you look like the fools. What's the other one here? I find this one is quite good. No extra time, straight to penalties. I would maybe agree with that in some sense.
I would agree, depending on the competition too. I mean, we've changed that last year in the League Cup. This is me being a rules nerd.
Yeah, this is why I started this conversation, because Simon helps in the rules with the Mid-Ulster Cup and the League Cup and whatever.
I'm trying to keep a track of all the rules is bonkers. But in last year, and I think in the League Cup, when there were, I can't remember why, but there was games needed midweek, and just for the feasibility of it, those games went in the agreement of teams straight to penalties. Yeah. Otherwise, they were maybe trying to fit games in somewhere on a dark night where they were maybe going to have to kick off at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or bonkers. So yes, there's definitely a place for that. I think if we were playing a League Cup or a Mid-Ulster Cup or a Ratcliffe Cup or whatever we happen to be in, and you're playing on a Tuesday night, and you've got a big game on a Saturday, I reckon if you ask most managers, they would be very happy to go straight to penalties.
It should be up to the club's discretion. Well, yeah.
Depends who you're playing, but say for example, we're playing Portstewart. We're playing Portstewart out here, and we're playing Cliftonville, and they're playing a cup game, and one of the games goes to extra time and the other one doesn't. As a player, do you think that would make a difference? Maybe playing that extra half an hour.
It wouldn't a Saturday, but at the same time too, I wouldn't want to take a risk about. I'd rather have the extra half an hour and extra time against a Portstewart than go into penalties and take my
penalties
chances.
is a lottery.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Yeah.
Last one is, this is like a basketball or like ice hockey one. Once you pass the halfway line, you're not allowed to pass the ball backwards.
Ooh, leave that one to you as a player.
Right. So you're allowed to pass the ball backwards.
Passed it the way it's facing. And normally it was over the stand.
But if you say you've passed the halfway line and then the ball goes over the halfway line back in your own half, you all have to go back in.
Oh, so like the
ice hockey.
Oh my God! Think of referees coping with that in linos.
Think of the players having to run all that time.
I mean, it's bad enough when you're watching an ice hockey match and there's only a small number on the ice. If you think there's 22 players and you have to keep a track of who's ahead of one line and where the ball is, and I think that would do my head in.
That would do my head in too, but you just wonder how the people come up with these kind of rules. Like.
And that going back, quickly to the sin bin one, because I'd heard Paul Merson talking about this. They were talking about it, and I agreed 100%. It was actually Dixie had mentioned it to me, because Dixie loves all this stuff too. He said a sin bin won't work in football, because what you'll get a team temporarily down to 10 men, and they'll just go ultra defensive until their players back on.
But that's like ice hockey. You've got the power play and ice hockey. That's what they do.
Oh, they do, but it's only a minute or 2 minutes. If you're maybe going 10 minutes and that, you could end up disrupting the game in terms of a team will just dig in, knowing that they've only got a last 10 minutes a man down.
Yeah.
So it could end up, instead of maybe giving a team an advantage, it could end up actually working the other way, and the team goes ultra defensive, and then the spectators and the fans are sitting watching maybe 10 minutes of football match where it's just totally nothing happens.
But then if your team's good enough, you'll break down a low block, as they call it. City and Arsenal went down to 10 men for the second half, and Arsenal sat back the whole time.
Extremely lucky.
And don't get me wrong, that was a very but it was also a very exciting half of football, because you'd be appreciative of the defensive skills of the Arsenal team.
100%. I think we should do something to speed it up though. Speed the game up. Like, ball boys must get the ball in within 2 seconds of it going out.
Or you know the thing that annoys me in the Irish League.
Just keep it coming in. Just like murder ball that yells at them. Balls everywhere. Just
Multi-ball.
keep them coming in.
Multi-ball. But it's the same thing. Like, the Irish League clubs are so guilty of it. Us included. Don't get me wrong. If we're winning 1-0, 10 minutes to go, the ball boys are called back. Come on now. You don't be throwing the ball on the back.
Wait, we don't do that. 100%.
But I noticed on this isn't a dig at Lauren or whatever. But I noticed on yesterday that behind Rowan Ferguson's goal there was a ball, but behind our goal there wasn't a ball.
I noticed yesterday, and it's just probably the way Lauren did it. They had everyone has a different way of doing multi-ball. They had ball boys. Generally, when we have, because of the makeup of our pitch, and we've got quite tight sidelines, we have a couple of ball boys behind each goal. Whereas the way Lauren did it, they had ball boys
along the sides of the pitch.
Along the sides, but I mean, they didn't move. They were there the whole game. There was nothing wrong, and that's their own system. So every
I'm only picking this up because I noticed it yesterday. This honestly isn't a dig at Lauren.
No, not at all. There are teams that try that gamesmanship, but they need to be wary, obviously, that there are actually rules against that in the NIFL rules in terms of
rule nerd.
Yeah, in terms of that. So the one that I remember was Knockbreda, and I know that they did not do this on purpose. Some of our supporters were getting annoyed. We were 1-0 down with about the 87th minute.
Just the cup.
It was the cup, and the ball boys disappeared, and people were complaining. But I have every sympathy with them, because the heavens opened and the ball boys were absolutely drenched through. So I 100% agreed with Knockbreda at that stage, because those lads, and it was a cold day and it lashed down, and you're thinking, size of some of them must have been maybe 6-year-old, and you're going, he's gonna be frozen to the core. So in those circumstances, absolutely get rid of the ball boys for a health reason. Now we were lucky. I think we brought on a couple of raw youngsters who scored a couple of goals, and we actually went through a couple of goals at the death. But in general, you shouldn't muck around with the ball boys unless you really have to.
If health and safety comes in it, yes.
100%.
What I think would be a good idea, I see Premier League clubs doing it. They have cones along the side of the pitch, and the ball is just sitting on the cone. So there's a boy, whoever, can go round and just replace the ball on the cone, and that's it.
And walk away from it.
So they're not near any play, they're not going to be in any danger, but there's a ball there.
Only thing is, we mightn't have enough space.
The only thing is, if you're doing your time wasting game management skills, you're picking the ball up and hoofing it in the yard. Exactly. Guys, thanks for joining me. I really enjoyed that one. That was really, really good.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to share a sofa with yourself and Mr. Hegarty over there.
And also, Chris, the very best of luck in your new role.
Thank you.
And obviously, still with your 16s and all the rest, but we'll catch up again. Is that okay?
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Class.
Guys, that concludes another episode of the Swiss Social. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and even hit the bell button, because you will never miss an upload. Thank you. Bye.
Some things are scarier than a haunted house. Happy Halloween from Used Cars NI.